This is your radio, Cayman. For the record, proudly brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery. Inspiring luxury. And JN Money.
From abroad to yard.
Fast, affordable, convenient. Doctor's Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctor's Hospital. Always there for you. Call 949-6066. And by the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey. Visit gov.ky/steps to learn more. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Digicel. Cayman's bigger, better network.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Ort Connor.
Good morning, Cayman. Simon Boxall here in the studio, standing in for Mr. Ort Connor for the Record Show. And I'm also joined, I'm very happy to say, by Deputy Director of the Department of Environment, Mr. Timothy Austin. Morning, Tim.
Good morning, Simon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much indeed.
Really good to see you. So we start out with birthday shout-outs. So we're going to see who celebrating today. We got Richard Drew. Happy birthday, Richard. Your birthday is today. And Anna K. Miller, also celebrating today. Sandy Squire, another celebrant today. Congratulations. And tomorrow we have Mateo Hilton celebrating his birthday tomorrow. And so those birthdays are brought to you by the Pizza Boat, which is now open in Queen's Court on West Bay Road. Hop on board the Pizza Boat Express. Pizza Boat makes pizza even more fun, pick up or delivery. And you can call them. They've got a really easy number to remember. It's 949-0000. Or you can order online at www.pizzaboat.ky. So, Tim, it's great to see you. I always remember, I was more living on the west side of Grand Cayman. You were in the North Sound, living, I think, Lion Tree Bay, and you had this tiny little boat, and you'd go out from quite a young age. I think you didn't have an engine, right?
No, we started out rowing across the North Sound, yeah.
Rowing across the North Sound. So, yeah, Tim, you have the deputy position at Department of Environment, and you've been there how long now? Do you know?
Gosh, Simon, we're talking about age now. Yeah, I've been there
straight out of school.
26 years, yeah. Well, I worked in the UK
right.
and then overseas a little while, 5 years, and then moved permanently back to Cayman in 1995. But it's always been my home, and I never left it for more than 3 months at a time. So,
right. That's right. So you did marine biology, I think, at York University, right?
Oh, wow. I went all over. So I had my parents were very kind and let me follow my dreams, which was obviously, although we were at Lime Tree Bay and Governor's Harbour, I grew up on Northwest Point, right there next to Agnes Cook and the turtle farm, and spent a long time swimming offshore and looking at the sea there, and I really loved it. My brother and I really wanted to get into it. I wanted to understand more about it. I didn't set out down a conservation path, but just this idea to learn more about the sea, and I was fortunate to chase my dreams, and I started at University of Reading with zoology and marine biology.
Oh, really? Okay.
Then Southampton University oceanography and marine biology, and then I worked at the University of York in the Tropical Marine Research Unit there for 5 years, which mostly involved work in Kenya, in the Indian Ocean there. So we were setting up marine protected areas in Kenya. And then in 1995, I was traveling a lot to go to these places, and Juliet was stuck in York in the cold teaching, and we said, you know what, let's see if there's a job in Cayman. And I wrote to Gina, and things kind of took shape from them, and by 1996 I had a post at the Department of Environment.
Wow. That's a great story. So, I mean, it must have been a pretty small department back then in the beginning for you, was it? I mean, you were where, by the MRCU compound?
That's right. So the Department of Environment has quite a long history. It started out as a wing, I think, of MRCU, the Natural Resources Unit, and it was really born about when the UK funded the first really major baseline study of the marine environment, I think in the 70s, 1976, often referred to as the Wickstead study.
Yeah.
And the OAD officers, I don't know what it was at the time, but the UK funded these in-depth background studies, baseline studies, and when the scientists left, the unit kept going, and it grew from then under MRCU. Then, under my history, just prior to me, then I think the whole thing got rolled up into a larger Department of Environment that included environmental health and MRCU, everybody together, and at which point I think they were, DOE was called the Protection and Conservation Unit. Then the whole thing split apart again, and the Department of Environment was formed officially, I think, in 1996, and we've grown from there. There was about, like 10 of us, to now I think we're close to 45 people, so things are really changing.
Wow. And I remember, I think, some of the marine conservation laws coming into force in the sort of mid-'80s or something, Dace Ground and people putting the laws. I mean, I think we probably should give Mr. Ladner Watler quite a lot of credit, because I actually worked at DOE for a little while.
That's right. You were a conservation officer, yes.
But I mean, he kind of pioneered some of that marine enforcement activity. He probably had to be pretty brave going out there, sort of going through that transitional time where people weren't used to having kind of any sort of regulation or limits and things like that. And
much respect and credit to Mr. Ladner. He single-handedly was enforcing the North Sound, and he was out there all hours of the night, all weather, didn't matter. He was unstoppable. But 1986 was kind of the watershed when marine protected areas first came in. The first phase of the marine parks were introduced. But the law goes further than that. Cayman's quite fortunate to have had proactive looking at the ocean. So 1976, I think, was the start of some of the first marine laws around turtles and what you could do in and out of the water.
Right. I think I read I read something, a history of Jamaica written back in 1740, and there was actually something in there where they were actually protecting turtle eggs as far back as that, and I guess we were part of Jamaica at that point, so that was probably, I think it was the history was by Leslie. I forget his first name, but going back to that Wickstead report, it's a difficult thing to get a hold of. I remember used to have a library at DOE, and in fact, if memory serves me right, that was originally the library that was assembled by Marco Giglioli.
That's exactly right, yeah.
And a lot of that material went into one of probably the most important reference guides for the environment and their natural history. It's called The Natural History and the Biogeography of the Cayman Islands by Blunt and Davis. That's kind of like
Brunt, Brunt and Davis, that's basically sums up everything that was known at the time the book was published. Obviously, things have changed a bit since it's published, but it's still the most definitive go-to reference material.
The biggest reference for the environment in Cayman. And from what I gather, when they were actually, I don't know, maybe you could tell me if this is true, but I heard as they were sort of winding up the facility at the MRCU location for DOE, the collection, the library, was actually tossed in the dumpster. And is it true that you actually climbed into the dumpster and saved the Marco Giglioli scientific?
I wish that was true. So I do have a reputation for climbing into dumpsters because I do like to collect junk and try to repair it. But no, at the time, so MRCU, we all were moving to a new building. Right. And it was a time for a sort out. So we did a lot of, shall you say, clearing out. But vital or important records weren't discarded into the dumpster, no. But we did move everything over. So we still have a lot of the reference collections. Obviously, MRCU took their own material, and I guess they got that kept safe. I'm not sure what. Yeah, there was some stuff that had to go, was kind of outdated, but nothing valuable was thrown out. And then we recently, due to our expansion in the department, the number of people, we had to get rid of our library. Libraries seem to be becoming a bit a thing of the past now with the internet and Googling.
Digitized.
So we went through our reference collection, our books, and we separated them into, only going to ever find this in Cayman. And we gave a lot of it to the National Archives, and they're helping us to kind of store it or catalogue it and make sure it's kept safer. But we have the original Wickstead records, the original papers they wrote on when they went out in the North Sound. At that time, there was a kind of tradition of collecting reference species. So we have the coral collection. They collected live coral in 1976 and made a reference collection. That wouldn't be allowed today unless you had a permit.
Black coral, things like that.
Yeah, so all those in the front of DOE. And you mentioned the Wickstead study. It's available on our internet, on the DOE line. We've scanned all these books.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, they're low quality scans, but they're there if people want to go and have a look at them or read them or ever need the data. Or just drop me an email and I can put you in touch with that.
And I guess the other very critical sort of environmental reference source is Proctor's botany.
Oh wow, you're getting into an area where I get really uncomfortable. I'm not very good at plants, but George Proctor and the species of Cayman, and of course I think there was a project quite recently. Well, recent. I keep thinking recent when you've been at DOE a long time, but about 10 years ago, the book was revisited, and with Kew Gardens and funding, they've republished it. So you can pick up a new version of that now from the library, or drop DOE a line, or I think the National Trust sells it. But it's still, it's an incredible piece of work.
It's pretty comprehensive.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And we have an amazing variety of plants and trees in Cayman compared to some of we think of like North America and parts of Europe, but we have incredibly varied plant life here. Is that correct?
It really is, yes. It's very impressive. And, one of the things with small islands is the endemics. So we have plants that are found in the Cayman Islands that are found nowhere else in the world. Indeed, we have plants in the sister islands that aren't even found in Grand Cayman. It's that small. Wow. And those are like, in terms of global biodiversity or the chances of species going extinct, they're really valuable in that regard. Found nowhere else. If we lose them, we've lost them forever from the world.
That would be kind of a bit of a failure if we annihilate something that is nowhere else on the planet. So.
Well, in the line of work that I do, we would see that as a failure. But people are working to, there are efforts to keep these things, keep them around. There's, seed banking. It's a shame that we have to do this, but we're collecting genetic material that's going into long-term storage at Kew Gardens, so that if we do lose them, we can call up Kew and get some seeds and grow them again. But
that's better not to. And I think Botanic Garden is doing some stuff too, right?
Botanic Garden, great. Yeah, they work closely with Kew, and I believe one of their employees actually has come out from Kew Garden. So, again, it's a bit of an area I don't. We have a terrestrial resources unit at DOE now.
You're more marine.
My background's in marine, and that's where I kind of gravitate towards. But we still have responsibility under the law now for the terrestrial environment. So I do get involved in that on a day-to-day basis.
I went looking for. I just want to. It's already you, but I remember when they were finishing up that latest copy of George Proctor's work that he was actually being investigated for hiring his gardener or something to assassinate his wife or something like that. You don't want to get into.
I don't want to get in trouble for talking about things I don't know. But the way I understood it, he was in prison in Jamaica and was finishing the book there, but he had failing eyesight, so people funded an incredible kind of pair of glasses type machine, so he was able to write. But the book I believe was completed in prison for some misdemeanor, which I'm not fully aware of what it was, but I do believe it had something to do with a plot.
Crazy. And I think the national tree, the silver thatch, is something proctori or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was in the BRAC a few years ago and looking for a red shrimp. I heard a couple of tales about like little bits of pockets of water, like one maybe somewhere by Treasure Island in that area there, maybe somewhere in South Sound, some kind of mysterious red shrimp. I went looking for it somewhere near the landfill on the south coast of Cayman Brac. Have you ever come across this red shrimp?
Simon, I have heard about the red shrimp and red shrimp hole since I was a kid.
Hole.
Yeah, and it is. I think it's next to the landfill area on the coast there. But I know people that have seen them. They're apparently in there, but I have never seen one. And much like you, I haven't made the effort to go and look, but I've wanted to go. And I've spoken to people in the Brack, and yes, they do exist. So it's just a shrimp that lives in water. And it doesn't surprise me, because there are so many things that we just don't yet know about Cayman. Although we're small and we're well resourced, there are still discoveries being made that are, just incredible. And when you think, we often get people bringing in strange critters they've caught at sea, or like typically when the Water Authority are drilling very deep wells, that the shrimps get washed out of the ground. So they're living under the ground in the rock, in caves and holes that, haven't seen the light of day.
I had somebody found one. We got to go to a break, but I had somebody found one down, they were drilling down hundreds of feet, and this big shrimp came up out of the ground. They kind of cooked it on the tailpipe of the of the truck. Anyway, we're gonna drop to a break. Thank you, Susan. We'll be right back.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
Mary Jeanette Bodden, 1861 to 1934.
Mary Jeanette was the first trained midwife in Bordentown. She was trained by Commissioner George S.S. Hurst, a medical doctor who issued her a certificate of completion of her training. She was noted in town for her strict regimen of hygiene, and she delivered numerous healthy babies throughout the district, staying with the mother and caring for her baby for 9 days after the birth. She herself was the mother of 11 children, 3 of whom she lost to typhoid epidemics before the arrival of Commissioner Hurst. On the Commissioner's frequent weekend visits to Bordentown, Mary Jeanette and her husband Henry provided transportation for him, as Henry was a mail carrier and owned a horse and buggy.
Radio Cayman's Historical Vignettes was brought to you by Rotary Central. For more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects.
Since 1993, Rotary Central has worked diligently each year to provide quality bus shelters to our community, a traveling convenience to our school children, the elderly, young people going to work, guest workers, and visitors using the public bus. We, Rotary Central, help you, our advertisers, make it happen. Your marketing dollar travels a far way, positioning your message, your product, your services, your presence in over 83 bus shelters. Every dollar you spend, every advert you place helps to build another bus shelter, providing modest comfort for Cayman travelers. Reserve space now on the only billboard medium in the Cayman Islands. Email rotaryshelters@gmail.com. rotaryshelters@gmail.com. The Bus Shelters, a partner in community convenience. Another inspiration program by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
All aboard the Pizza Boat! Cayman's newest pizzeria. Birthday parties, office luncheons, summer camps, game night. Whatever your occasion, bring the fun with Pizza Boat. A Cayman twist to pizza. Bringing fusion ingredients from all over the globe to give you locally inspired fresh pizzas all day, every day. What's more, now you can enjoy a boat-shaped pizza with toppings of your choice. It's Pizza Boat. Pizza Boat, now open in Queens Court on West Bay Road. Pick up or delivery 949-0000 or order online www.pizzaboat.ky. Pizza Boat. Experience the ultimate pizza voyage.
Hello, Cayman. If you have been chosen for the STEPS National Health Survey, thank you so much. But we still need your help. 1,000 more people need to participate in Step 3, the final step of the survey, to ensure that our data reflects the whole population of Cayman. We cannot do this without you. Help us shape Cayman's healthcare services. Say yes to Step 3. For more information, contact the STEPS team on 936-4969 or email mhwsteps@gov.ky.
Are you ready?
Are you ready for a midsummer miracle? Get ready for the Christmas in July sale at Tortuga and discount retail stores. All July, Tortuga is bringing exclusive Red Dot deals in store. Discover incredible savings on selected items that will make your summer merrier. But hurry, the Red Dot deal is available while stock lasts during regular store trading hours. Don't miss the once in a summertime offer to save on your favorite beverages and more with Christmas in July. Visit a Tortuga and discount retail stores near you.
It's a 24-karat summer with Digicel. In honor of our first truly COVID-free summer, Digicel is giving away $24,000. Be one of 10 to win $2,400 this July. For a chance to win, all you have to do is switch to Digicel, activate a Prime bundle, or simply pay your bill on time. It's that easy. It takes 2 minutes to get $2,400 richer. Make the choice to win today and visit a Digicel store near you.
Can you imagine your home completely organized? At Brand Source Custom Closets, we can. We specialize in designing and building custom closets and storage units for any room in your home, including the garage. With tailored designs and custom LED lighting solutions to fit your lifestyle and budget. Our Custom Closets expert is committed to enhancing the value of your home with a solution that is uniquely yours. Visit our showroom or call 623-6774 to schedule a no-obligation appointment with our design expert. Brand Source Custom Closets, 209 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Thank you very much. It's Simon Boxall standing in for Mr. O.C. Connor, or Connor, for the Record Show, and I'm pleased to be joined by Deputy Director of Department of Environment, Mr. Timothy Austin. Tim, so I forget where we were at, but what are some of the research projects that you guys are working on now? I've noticed there's been some stuff looking at sharks. You're baiting things down deep or something?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of work going on, but since you mentioned sharks, we can start with that one. Yeah, so we have a Darwin project called Deep Sea, with a play on words there, Deep Sea, spelled S-E-E, where we're dropping baited remote underwater video, so short for BRUV. So if I slip back into the anagram, it's a BRUV is a camera that's rigged up with lights and bait and is capable of going to, for us, quite deep. We're aiming to try to hit 2 kilometers, so 2,000 meters down.
6,000 feet.
Yeah, 6,000 feet.
How far have you got so far?
I think we've got to 1.5 kilometers, 1,500 meters. But we're coming back, actually, beginning of this week, we're going to go to Little Cayman and try to do some more deep drops. That's some really sophisticated technology we're using to do that. But more, some of our more day-to-day work is looking down to 600 feet, or about the 200-meter contour. And we're trying to get a handle on, what is in our deep water environment, and we because we just didn't know. We have worked with BRUVs in the shallow water environment, and we work with long lining, and we've been looking at trying to assess the local shark population.
Sorry, long lining.
Long lining, which actually is scientific long line. We set about a 600 or 700 meter line with baited hooks on it, and we monitor that line, and then when we catch a shark on that line, we remove the sharks, and then we collect all their biological data, measure them, and we tag them. And we let them go, and then we have an array around the island of listening devices, and that tells us where those sharks are going. And we've found some just fascinating stuff. Like I would never know that your little reef shark that's swimming around in Cayman is able to leave Grand Cayman, swim to the Little Cayman, spend a bit of time in Little Cayman and come back. We always thought that the sharks were certainly reef sharks were more territorial. They picked an area and they hung out there. But it turns out they go cruising all around, and they have a navigation system that lets them get to Little Cayman and back, and then come back to the site they left from, which is, it's just mind-blowing to think about that.
That is amazing. And so these devices anchored to the seafloor, or are they drifting?
They're suspended, so they're down to 600 feet or 200 meters is suspended. Actually, 600 meters, actually, it's a bit deeper than that. It's suspended on a line. We have a line that goes over the side, and we have depth sound, and we navigate above it. But the one that's going down to 2 kilometers is on a float and a weight. It goes to the bottom, sits on the bottom for a couple of hours. We then have an electronic release where we hit the button and it releases. It comes back to the surface. It broadcasts a signal, and we're able to track it down and go and retrieve it.
Hopefully retrieve it.
We lost one briefly, but we got it back. But we do actually have a rig that unfortunately got tangled up on. We were trying to figure out the banks, the 12-mile bank, and the rig got snagged on the bottom, but we're aiming to recover it shortly.
Interesting. There isn't a lot of coral on the 12-mile bank, from what I understand. It's, maybe soft corals, but there's not that much hard corals on. Have you dove it?
So I've been diving on it. It's quite a unique environment, and it's something that we're trying to get a better handle on, because the banks actually represent really important fishery grounds. And obviously the break in what is largely deep water means that there's all kinds of unique species hanging out there, and fishermen know this well. But the banks, they're quite exposed. The currents are high. They're also quite deep, and as you know, coral needs sunlight. So over the years, there's not been as much light, so the reef development is a little slower. But having said that, historically, the banks were used as anchoring grounds. So ships used to wait there and drop their anchors. Now, thankfully, that's an offence, and we try to prevent that from happening. But there may be a legacy. When you look at the bottom, you can think something doesn't look right here. It looks like it's been either gleaned by chains, or maybe it's the current and the sediment movement. So we just don't know a lot about it. But you're right, they're kind of low and flat. But there is coral there, and there are large coral heads on it as well.
Okay.
But it's a difficult environment to study, and one that hopefully we'll get to know more about it as we move further, particularly if Cayman is able to work to get its EEZ, the Exclusive Economic Zone, established. Right. As you know, we border Jamaica, we border Cuba, and I think Honduras. We've agreed a border with Honduras, and I think they're currently negotiating a border between Jamaica and a border between Cuba. Once we know that, we can start looking at the kind of more defined management of these areas, I think.
Yeah, that would be good, because it is kind of ambiguous right now. I mean, so if you go between, say, for instance, Grand Cayman and Little Cayman, can you go out there with like a trawler and just hoover up anything you want? Is there no sort of law, or is it just a kind of a free-for-all? Can you scuba dive and spearfish and that kind of thing?
So the National Conservation Law, which came into effect in 2013, does define now this. It used to be considered nearshore waters, and it had territorial waters,
12 miles,
which was twistically 12 miles out, which just captured the bank. After that, it wasn't really very well defined, but it's supposed to be your exclusive economic zone,
right,
which on islands that don't have neighbours, that's out to 200 nautical miles. But obviously, with having Cayman, Honduras, and Cuba close to us, you can't go 200 miles. So they have what they call a median line, so halfway between the two. And in theory, that is your EEZ. But prior to that, there wasn't a lot of legislation about what could happen in that area. But now the National Conservation Law defines areas under Cayman's jurisdiction. And even though we haven't agreed a border with Jamaica or Cuba yet, the median line does exist. So technically, there are regulations that prevent anything illegal. The National Conservation Law extends to that median line.
It would seem that from my reading of it, that is the case too, particularly if you, under the United Nations Law of the Sea, if you file a map, at least with Cuba, file a map with Jamaica, and just say in the interim period between actually defining and delimiting that border, we're going to use the median line, and that's the map, and we're going to enforce our laws within that area. So I think all it basically takes is a map, and just letting them know that's what the situation is.
And these have been drawn, the maps are drawn, those median lines exist. But the complicating fact is Cayman's quite small, Cuba's quite large, so they argue it shouldn't be halfway between the two. We should get like 60% and you only get 40%. And Jamaica, similarly, there's some Pedro banks, there's some islands that come out there, they're uninhabited, but they say, hey, that's actually the start of Jamaica there, we're going to measure from there.
Our baseline point.
Yeah, so it's a lot of debate.
But it is interesting, though, because it does, it sounds like a break again, because that Southwest rock that they're claiming has to be capable of supporting human life. Like, people got to be able to live on it, and it's awash most of the time. And getting back to what you said about Cuba, the 60-40 split, I mean, I'm sure they didn't feel that way when they negotiated with the United States, which is a much bigger country to them, and they, they didn't get their arm twisted into accepting it was a good 50-50 split. So hopefully they will respect that we're challenged in our lack of land area, And as a result, we are quite deserving of a 50-50 split. I think we're going to go to another break. Is that correct, Miss Susan?
My ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Spread the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands. The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com.
For today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. The maritime threats posed by the Cayman Islands are highlighted by the Coast Guard headed an international conference. CAGTV's Donna Bush reports.
Cayman Islands Coast Guard officials are busy locally and internationally. Recently, Coast Guard Commandant Mr. Robert Scotland delivered a briefing to fellow attendees of the annual Defense IQ Surface Warships and OPV International Conference held in London. The briefing on the Cayman Islands highlighted the threats posed from illicit maritime activity, the role of the CICG in preserving the maritime safety and security of the islands, and the initiatives that are underway to enhance the capability and capacity of the CICG to address the various threats and challenges it presently faces.
Community emergency response team members were invited to participate in the Caribbean Utility Company First Responder Safety Training course on Thursday. Hazard Management Cayman Islands Director Danny Coleman.
The session emphasized the importance of electrical safety, precautionary measures, and also how to assess potential hazards as first responders in the community.
HCMI and the Red Cross organized the training hosted at the Red Cross building on Hulda Ave. This training forms part of the CERT Sustainability Program, which is designed to keep CERT members engaged and enhancing their skills even during periods without the National Emergency Operations Center needing to be activated. To ensure a wider reach of CERTs from the sister islands, the session also accommodated over 200 people via Zoom and in person. And the Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Leadership Class of 2023 raises more than $100,000 at their Wheels for Meals fundraising event. The Chamber President, along with alumni from Leadership Cayman's Class of 2023, presented Meals on Wheels manager Jennifer West with a giant check outside the Chamber of Commerce in Governor Square on Friday. The fundraiser took place at Vital Spin Bar and Yoga Den in Grand Harbor in June, and all proceeds rates will go directly to Meals on Wheels. 23 teams of up to 5 people participated in back-to-back spins and kids' Zumba classes. The funds raised will make a big impact to the Cayman community and will allow Meals on Wheels to deliver more than 10,000 meals. It also kickstarts MOW's fundraising for its new premises at Industrial Park. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Chris Barrow. Sudanese women have given the BBC graphic personal testimony of rapes committed by paramilitaries during the civil war. The UN attributes nearly all the rapes to fighters from the Rapid Support Forces. The group has denied using sexual violence as a weapon. The president of Chad, Mohamed Idriss Déby, has met the leaders of the military coup in Niger as well as the man they deposed. President Mohamed Bazoum has been held captive in his palace since he was ousted by the army last week. Russian missiles have killed at least 4 people in President Zelensky's home city of Kryvyi Rih in southern Ukraine. A 10-year-old girl and her mother are among the dead. Rescuers are searching for survivors in the ruins of a 9-story residential building. 2 Iraqi activists have again burned a copy of the Quran in Sweden, this time outside the parliament in Stockholm. The protests have caused anger in Muslim countries and raised questions about Sweden's policy on freedom of expression. At least 2 people have been killed in flooding in Beijing as China's most powerful tropical storm in years continues to sweep northwards. Hundreds of thousands of people have been forced to leave their homes. The British Prime Minister has announced at least 100 new oil and gas licences for the North Sea, despite pledges to cut emissions. Rishi Sunak also promised new funding for carbon capture projects. The World Health Organization says tobacco is still the leading cause of preventable deaths worldwide, despite a reduction in consumption and 15 years of control measures. Thousands of people in Hong Kong have been queuing up to pay their final respects to the actor and singer Coco Lee. She died early this month at the age of 48 after an apparent suicide attempt. The film star Jackie Chan said he hoped Coco Lee could now sing and dance freely in heaven. BBC News.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by ValueMed Pharmacy. Save time and order your prescription refills online at value-medpharmacy.com. VALU-medpharmacy.com. Are you tired of waiting in long lines at the pharmacy just to fill a prescription?
If what, child, let me tell you.
Well, now you can save time and money with ValueMed's online prescription service. Visit ValueMed's new website, valrx.com, and click the Refill Subscriptions button. Fill in your information and choose your preferred pickup location. Or email your prescription refills for ValueMed Walkers Road at rx-wr@valrx.com, and for ValueMed in Boddentown, email rx-bt@valrx.com. Say goodbye to the hassle of waiting in lines and hello to the convenience of online prescriptions with ValueMed Pharmacy. Visit valrx.com to place your orders today.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman with the latest up-to-date, accurate news and information. For your convenience, the headline news will be repeated on our sister station, Breeze 105.3 FM, weekdays at 8:30 a.m. Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or download the Radio Cayman app in the App Store, or log on to www.radiocayman.gov.ky and stay connected to what's happening in the community. Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Yo, big up Massive. Summer is here and Digicel got the vibes flowing straight to Jamaica. That's right, me people. Digicel has a sizzling offer for you. Top up for your loved ones in a Jamaica and you get a chance to win the ultimate trip to the land of sun, sea and good vibes. To enter for the free trip to Jamaica, just send top up to your loved ones back home with Digicel and you automatically qualify. Remember, the more top up you send, the higher the chance you win. So make sure you don't miss out on the fun. Me people, get the summer vibes flowing with a top up for your loved ones with Digicel and get ready for a trip of a lifetime.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Britcay, where people come first.
Good morning. Let's take a look at the latest weather report. Current temperature is 87 degrees. Relative humidity is 75%. The barometric pressure is 29.99 inches and rising. The wind is out of the east-northeast at 8 knots. Overnight low temperature was 83. Synopsis indicate light winds and slight to moderate seas are expected across the Cayman area for the next 24 hours due to a slack pressure gradient over the Caribbean. Radar images show isolated showers in and around the Cayman area moving towards the west. Now, the forecast for today calling for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of morning showers, and temperatures today will be in the low 90s. Winds will be east to northeast at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. For tonight, the forecast is calling for partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers, and temperatures dipping to the low 80s tonight. Winds will be east to northeast at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. We're presently at a high tide, and the next low tide will be this afternoon at 2:27, and a high tide again tonight at 9:16. The sun will set this evening at 7 and will rise tomorrow morning at 3 minutes after 6. And the outlook is calling for a tropical wave expected to enter the Cayman area tomorrow night, increasing her chances of showers and thunder through Wednesday morning.
Take some advice from your Aunt Angie. If you want to go scuba diving on your vacation, don't bedazzle your wetsuit. And you think you look great, but what you don't realize is that you look like a shiny, scaly fish. And it won't take long for a shark to notice you. Next thing you know, you're busting out every karate move you got. But if you're smart, you'll have CG medical insurance and get airlifted out to the closest hospital.
Get coverage for emergency evacuations. CG Brit-K. Good like that. All benefits are subject to policy provisions, including eligibility at the time of service.
The 8:12 a.m. weather report brought to you by CG Brit-K, where people come first.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by Encourse Cayman. Visit encourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. Encourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
Change your thinking. Change your life. Practicing forgiveness is a healthy habit.
As pastor and best-selling author Gary Chapman wrote in his book, The 5 Love Languages, How to Express Heartfelt Commitment to Your Mate, forgiveness is not a feeling, it is a commitment. It is a choice to show mercy, not to hold the offense up against the offender. Forgiveness is an expression of love.
Change your thinking. Change your life.
During these unprecedented times, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Cayman Strong Series. The Cayman Strong Series is brought to you by Encourse Cayman. Visit encourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. Encourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
These days, feelings of loneliness, anxiety, stress, and depression can be overwhelming. Just know you are not alone. Encourse Cayman offers private mental health services for children, teens, adults, and groups. Visit encourse.ky to view a full list of wellness services and their qualified team. Encourse Cayman, health, wellness, and happiness.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Good morning once again. Let's take a look this time at traffic. Coming from the east on Shamrock Road, traffic is steady but flowing, and steady traffic on the Linford Pearson Highway. And traffic is also steady on Cool Road heading to Georgetown. Slight delays expected. And steady traffic coming off of Bobby Thompson Way and continuing on to Huldah Avenue. As we look to Edward Street, light to moderate traffic flow. And traffic coming from the West Bay four-way stop is flowing pretty good. On Shedden Road, moderate flow of traffic in both directions. Coming off of the S. de la Tibbetts Highway, steady but flowing traffic. North Sound Road, moderate flow of traffic in both directions, as well as heading towards the Industrial Park area. And traffic on the West Bay Road is moving along at a good pace in both directions, especially in front of the Ritz. Godfrey Nixon Ray and Easton Avenue flowing at a good pace, and no issues on Edward Street. If you see any accidents or incidents on Cayman's roads, give us a call here at Radio Cayman, 949-6990. That's what's happening on your roads. Join us again at about 10 minutes after 12 o'clock. We'll give you another traffic report. Have a good morning and click it or ticket.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway Box to Go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Tune in every Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. for Radio Cayman's Midday Newscast. Radio Cayman, the People's Station, your trusted official source for the latest news. The 12 p.m. news is proudly brought to you by Health City Cayman Islands. World-class healthcare within your reach.
and Cayman, get ready as Roma United Sports Club, Jake and Money, and Kingston 62 present the official Jamaica Independence Celebration. Friday, August 4 at the Lion Center, featuring live from Jamaica, Tess and Chin, alongside the 5th Division Band. Also, Leroy Evans, Terry Williams, and Cayman's best dancers. Lots of prizes and giveaways, kids talent contest, best dress competition, and much more. Held here from 5 to 9 p.m. Get your PSA, diabetes, and blood pressure check for free. It's Jamaica Independence Celebration, Friday, August 4 at the Lion Center. Sponsored by Best Dressed Chicken, Popeyes, Digicel, Royal Medical, Kmart, Cost You Less, Radio Cayman, Breeze FM, Cayman Airways, iCool Air Conditioning, and Cayman Hair and Beauty Supply.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Welcome back. It's Simon Boxall sitting in for Ort Connor for the record show. I'm also joined by Mr. Timothy Austin, Deputy Director, Department of Environment. So a minute ago, I was listening to Susan. A lot of what's happening, by the way, we've got to give credit to Susan in the background. She's really the one doing most of the work, and she's got such a beautiful, soft voice. I love her voice. And she was talking about, she was doing the weather forecast, seas smooth to slight. I think we're mid-90s or something today. Temperature, Tim, is been in the news, and I think you were discussing it, or the department was discussing the possible impacts on corals. It feels like something kind of, we're a bit helpless to do anything about. Obviously, we try to take steps to do what we can in terms of our footprint for carbon dioxide. But can you talk a little bit about the water temperatures? They've been up there, right?
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, it's been in the news all around. This El Nino having an impact on the temperatures, and I think it's the hottest July on record globally. And certainly for Cayman, I haven't been following the terrestrial air temperatures, but we've been monitoring the marine temperatures, and there's a long-term data set that NOAA, the National Ocean Atmospheric Administration, record from the satellite sensors going around the world, and they record the temperature at night, and they've been doing that since 1985. Okay. And that data is freely available to anybody, and we monitor the data for Cayman. And July is indeed the hottest July ever that we've had, and also nearly some of the hottest water we've ever had. So it's really, really concerning. And it's concerning because it's happening like a month in advance. Normally we'd expect the end of August and beginning of September to be like the actual peak. So we've still got a period of warming, but we're already over the threshold for what corals are actually animals and plants living together in a symbiotic relationship. And when the water gets too warm for them, they get extremely stressed, and a result of that, they get rid of the plant that's living within the coral. They need it, but so they evict their plants, the little plant cells, and the coral goes white. So it's a phenomenon that we call coral bleaching. It doesn't. We're starting to see it on the reef now. The corals are paling in color. The coral, it doesn't initially kill the coral, but if the bleaching is extended, then we do see coral mortality or coral death. And typically, we've had some pretty significantly bad bleaching events around Cayman and indeed around the world. It's often reported the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, the largest reef system in the world, suffered a catastrophic dieback from a bleaching event due to warm water. But our worst event, I think, was 1998. Then in 2005, there was a significant event. And then Cayman had a rather unique one, I think 2015, where it was just Cayman that was impacted. But it's looking like globally there's going to be some pretty serious bleaching events going unless things change. It could be that the water starts to cool off, and the peak was in July rather than August. But fingers crossed. But at the moment, it's not looking particularly hopeful. And that comes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Maybe we were heading in the same direction. This on top of the stony coral tissue loss thing as well, but that's just Grand Cayman. It's not in the system.
Yeah, that's excellent for bringing that up. So stony coral tissue loss disease, which is a coral disease that's now impacting a lot of the Caribbean, first identified in Florida in 2014. It's completely decimated their reefs. It's a virulent disease that spreads through multiple corals. So that's what makes this quite unique. Most coral diseases, or some coral diseases, only impact just a few species. This one literally is infecting nearly all of the species that we've got, and it's also is fatal to them. These corals die, so corals take a long time to grow, but they can die overnight from stony coral tissue loss disease. And yeah, you mentioned it's spreading around the Caribbean, but at the moment we've only had it in Grand Cayman. It was reported in Cayman in June 2021. By the end of 2022, it had spread right around the island and was every reef we had on the island, and we're seeing significant mortality as a result of that. In fact, we just had some data in from a group that help us collect our long-term coral reef monitoring data and our annual surveys of the reef, and the coral cover is really looking, I saw some scarily low numbers, but which is a shame. So add the bleaching on top of the stony coral tissue loss disease and all the other impacts that corals are facing. Yeah, it's a pretty bleak outlook, and this is happening globally, but also in Cayman.
So why do you think it's not in Little Cayman and Cayman Brac? Is it because they're hardier, they're not distressed from the nitrates and phosphates and things?
Really good question, and one that we are looking at, and I'm glad you brought up that idea that they're not stressed, because there is evidence that a more resilient reef is able to fight off both bleaching events and disease events, and is just generally healthier. And it makes sense, when we're in good shape, we don't get sick as often. So that's the kind of very basic model behind that. But the truth is, they really don't know, what is the disease? What is this stony coral tissue disease? What is causing it? And we don't know the vectors. We don't know the means of transport. How is it moving? There's been some theory that, maybe it's moving in ship ballast water. Well, then, we would kind of expect to find it in Georgetown the first time round, but that, it didn't happen there. It broke out on the north coast in one of our more remote areas. It's definitely evidence of waterborne transport, because it moved faster down the north coast with the prevailing wind and weather directions. But then there were periodic outbreaks, just remote areas, and usually in dive sites. And that could be the fact that because people are diving there, you see it there first. But we were doing island-wide surveys, so there is some evidence that, dive gear is potentially a vector. You get a little bit of water in your BC, or whatever the pathogen is on your wetsuit or on your dive gear. And when you dive on a reef, you introduce it. And so that's an area that we're looking at. So we really encourage people going to the sister islands. If you're going to sister islands having dived in a country that has stony coral tissue loss disease, it's really relevant that you disinfect your gear. And we've equipped most of the dive operators with the ability to disinfect dive gear. And we've also have a lot of outreach to tell people how they can avoid transmitting the disease if it is indeed traveling on dive gear.
So we want to remind people that you can actually call us 1-800-534-8255. It's compliments of flow. Or if non-flow users, you can call 949-8037, 949-6990, or WhatsApp us on 925-3261, or by email at fortherecord@candw.ky. That was a bit sad, Tim. But in terms of, we've been doing the marine parks for many, many years now. Are they working? You've been protecting grouper. There's been work on the turtles. Is that having an impact?
I've got to say yes, of course.
It's got to be, right?
So the parks came in effect in 1986, but Cayman at that time were facing many different issues that needed addressing, and the marine parks worked on that. So conch and lobster were a real big focus. Fishing pressure, not so much. There were some areas where you couldn't fish, but fishing from shore and fishing at the drop-off was permitted. And the population was low, and it was more about protecting from divers, and so dive moorings and where you couldn't anchor. Right. And that was really the focus. But there was evidence that the parks were working, but that by the 20, 30 years later on, I thought it would be a good idea. Let's have a look at this to see, what can we do to improve the system. So we did some studies, and yes, coral cover was still slightly better within marine protected areas, recruitment, all of the kind of metrics we use to determine whether the park's working, particularly fish biomass. But we realized that, the population had doubled. There was climate change now on the agenda. There were lionfish. There was expanded development. There was a whole bunch of new things that we really needed to take on board in our management approach. And there's this idea that the best way to do that is to protect it. And a lot of our marine protected areas were kind of the old replenishment zone. You could still line fish in it. So fishing really became the focus of much of this part, and the idea of expanding it so that we had representative habitats all around the islands, but all three islands on all three sides. So we had a really ambitious target of 50% of the coastal shelf. Keep referring to the coastal shelf because that's really our most biodiverse and most protected area, although the open ocean is really important. Our nearshore environment is what we really depend on, and that's a small area. We all know how far, how close the wall or the deep water is to the edge of Cayman. So we're not, although Cayman's quite large, Grand Cayman's quite large, in terms of other countries, the area that we have to protect isn't that large. So it was quite difficult to fit marine protected in areas of a decent size without having a fairly large area in competence. So we, as I said, mentioned this ambitious target of 50%. And we had huge amounts of public consultation and scientific work going into designing these parks so that we could really maximize how they came. And we did a pretty good job, and the government passed into effect. I think we got like 45% of the coastal shelf is now, 40% to 45% is no take, as in you can't take anything out of it, and in theory is protected. We were able to stop the fishing from shore and stop fishing at the 80-foot contour, shifted that to the 150. And yes, unfortunately, there are some people that may have lost their fishing grounds or their favorite fishing spot or the ability to fish from the back of their house. But we still feel that the system itself overall represents the best scenario for the Cayman population as it is. There are compromises in there. And obviously the idea is that if we can protect some areas, that will go to benefit the areas outside, and everybody benefits as well.
I just want to read an article. I was looking at a website, Inside Crime, which looks at investigations. And one of them is overharvesting and poaching devastate our neighbor Jamaica's fisheries. It was written a little while ago, about a year ago actually, but for more than half a century, Ephraim Walters has fished the southern coast of Jamaica, but he rarely heads out any longer. With inland waters almost barren, Walters, who goes by the nickname Frame, said he must travel further out to sea, some 100 kilometers, spending 3 to 5 days and using up to 100 gallons of fuel. Sometimes you go out and you don't catch a thing, and you can't buy back the gas you used to go out, the father of 9 told Inside Crime. Jamaican fishers, many unlicensed and largely ungoverned, are taking what they can from the country's waters, draining them of shad, yellowtail, parrot, snapper, and other types of reef fish. They use destructive techniques, including small mesh nets that scrape the ocean floor of all life. Undersized fish are harvested indiscriminately, and there are no catch limits. In deep waters, foreign vessels, some of them carrying dozens of divers, poach lobster and conch, a type of shellfish that was on the brink of collapse a few years ago. I don't think this is unique to Jamaica. It's probably happening in many other countries as well around the world and in the Caribbean Sea. So, but obviously Jamaica's our nearest neighbor, and we've historically had a lot of connection. So, I mean, the sense that you can't kind of dun some of these species, that it's inexhaustible. You were talking about how Cayman has a very narrow shelf. They have a huge shelf area in Jamaica, obviously, with the Pedro Bank and the Morant Keys. This guy, the article carries on that they got 274,000 square kilometers of maritime space in Jamaica, and you've got to go out 100 kilometers now to even have a chance. It looks like you're catching a fish or a conch or a lobster. So it is obviously possible to really kind of wipe it out if there's a lot of pressure on these areas. So
yeah, I mean that's an interesting article, and certainly when I was studying at university, Jamaica was the poster child for overfishing and degradation. They have considerably more kind of issues to deal with than Cayman. That poverty and actual huge reliance on the ocean as the only sustainable way of, or the only means of sustenance. The issues there are really quite significant. But there's been a lot of good work done in Jamaica. I mean, there are now marine parks that are showing signs of recovery.
They protected the conch as well, I think, recently.
They did, that's right. And Cayman works with conch. We used to have boats coming here bringing conchs that were harvested illegally. Jamaica had introduced a moratorium on conch export to prevent to meet the CITES, the Control and Endangered Species Act. And their fishermen were really respecting, but others weren't. And these unregulated or unprotected banks were being raped conch, and jurisdictions that were buying those were equally guilty, and so Cayman stepped up to the plate. And I think we now regulate conchs that are coming in here that are taken from other jurisdictions.
We've got to go to a break shortly, but when I want to come back, I'd like to. We've got 2 callers on the line. We're going to take those callers, but. The lagoon snapper fishery, I'm hearing, I wonder whether you could talk about it. At certain times of year, they're breeding on the north coast, I think, and I'm hearing reports that the fish are getting smaller and smaller, that they're even rowing, when they're about a foot in length, whereas before they tended to see the roe in the fish when they were more like 2 feet. We did put in protection for the Nassau group of breeding grounds. Is there any talk of looking at protecting breeding grounds for any other species, in particular the lagoon snapper? But I think we're going to go to a break now with Susan, and we'll be right back. Please give us a call. We've got 2 callers waiting. Please stay on the line.
Hello, Cayman. If you have been chosen for the STEPS National Health Survey, thank you so much. But we still need your help. 1,000 more people need to participate in Step 3, the final step of the survey, to ensure that our data reflects the whole population of Cayman. We cannot do this without you. Help us shape Cayman's healthcare services. Say yes to Step 3. For more information, contact the STEPS team on 936-4969 or email mhwsteps@gov.ky.
Did you know that you can send money transfers to financial institutions anywhere in Jamaica with JN Money?
You mean I can send money straight to my account and cut out the middleman?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. You send your own money to your own account, giving you peace of mind that the money is in your account.
JN Money Transfers to Financial Institution is another convenient service offered by JN Money. You can have this done from any JN Money location. Deposit your money straight to your account without the hassle of asking someone to do it for you. JN Money Transfers to Financial Institutions, making life easier.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Hey, is your phone slow, overheating, and dropping important calls? Don't fret. This summer, it's time to flip out with Digicel. Introducing the all-new Samsung Flip 4 with its sleek design and cutting-edge features. You'll flip into the summer in style and confidence. This summer, you can grab the all-new Samsung Flip 4, all just for $145. Flip into the summer with Digicel. Visit a Digicel store near you and grab the all-new Samsung Flip 4 and the amazing 7-day Prime Ultra plan today.
System 1 loaded. 1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Ort Connor.
Welcome back. I'm Simon Boxall in for Ort Connor for the record, joined by Mr. Timothy Austin, Deputy Director, Department of Environment. I think we're going to go straight to the calls. Susan, if they're still on. Good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello.
Morning.
Morning, sir. Morning, to your guest there.
Good morning. Thank you.
Elvis McKeever.
Elvis McKeever from Cayman Brack. Great to hear from you, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I always believe in justice and being fair. I don't care who you are, where you're from. But when the Marines thing started in the 80s, I was one of those that didn't understand. And I took my time as a young fisherman. I took my time and I said, something, we really got to do something. And I said, okay. Now, it's been 30-odd years now, sir. And I've been back in this for the last 15 years. When are we going to stop people that have permit to come here and fishing? All we are doing to the Caymanian, I heard them say, how much shoreline they took it now and all that. We are shrinking it. We are punishing the Caymanian for lack of courage to come. Well, our politicians, it just takes that courage. No one on a permit here, no tourist can take anything besides pictures. You know what I said? And our marine life would be beautiful. Mr. Artist, you know what I want you to do, sir? Because I hear the Caymanian that want to carry a little boy and little girl to catch a little fish off the shore. When they go there, the people on permits, there's no space for the fish in the canals they're killing out. The canals is nurseries, right? Yeah, that's where they're eating out. And Mr. Austin, you know it. You know it. I don't want to know it. But what I'm doing about it, taking away more players from people. I told Lara, my good friend in Cayman Brack, where his house has been in the family for over 100 years. And now they stretch it out that man can't go in his front yard and catch a migrant. Let me tell you something. And you know something, we are so law-abiding. But I can tell you, if that was Elvis, Justin McKeever players, I go in and catch my two little migrants like I would do it for my boy. Because obviously, they ain't killed out, okay? But I want to find out when, who. I hear you and Miss Gina. Oh, we need to lock this. We need to slow down the limits. But I don't hear nobody singing. We need, our population has grown. Gone are the days when the tourists could come die, they'll come lobster thing. But Mr. You know this. You got people that come down especially for our lobster season. That's when they vacation. They're not going to buy no lobster in the shop for $25. They go get their own. But we are doing nothing about that. And I'll see if you can address that, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that point you raised there, Mr. Elvis McKeever. Interesting point. I think at some point it was actually that there were kind of restrictions on foreigners fishing on the and permit holders.
Yeah, I'm really happy I'm glad Mr. Elvis called in because I get to say thanks to all. He's been instrumental in some of the really effective national grouper protections that's come in as a result of
Caymanian people. I remember Mr. General also in the BRAC, he was very important in the grouper protection.
Yeah, exactly. Mr. Ellis, I mean, they've as you said, they're law-abiding people. They've helped greatly in encouraging people to respect these laws so that we can see a benefit. And certainly for national grouper, we've seen a recovery, which is just so encouraging, showing you that marine conservation does work when everybody gets involved. But his point to the fishing licenses is very topical. It's something that a lot of people bring up all the time, and it's something that we're actually being tasked with looking at. There was previously an effort under old governments to introduce a fishing license and to ban fishing from shore for people that didn't have a work that were on a work permit. That's right.
Right.
And the fishing license was set at quite a high price to try to deter people from there. But there were some. I don't know enough about this to give it the full kind of in-depth analysis it needs, but there were some constitutional issues. But I think that you can't discriminate against
discrimination.
People.
I think it came up in the court, didn't it? It was challenged in the court.
That's right. It was challenged and thrown out. But we've since been back there, and we have solutions. So it's something that ticks along.
Make it a different way, so it's not going to be constituted. I guess the thing is probably Caymanians don't want to have a permit to go fishing themselves, so you've probably got to either have a permit that is kind of across the board, and then you can restrict people who are,
and
access.
It comes down to the enforcement of this. It's very, very difficult for people know this, to determine who's Caymanian. Do you have to carry it? Right. We don't have the national identity card. You got
to flash.
We don't have a fishing license. You don't want to take your passport fishing. You don't want to take your birth certificate fishing.
We don't like a lot of bureaucracy.
No.
We do actually have another call. I think it's a great point. We'll follow up on that if we have an opportunity to bet. Let's take this call though now, and welcome to For the Record. You're on.
Simon.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Okay, and the guest this morning is who?
Sorry, guest this morning is Mr. Timothy Austin, Deputy Director from Department of Environment.
Good morning.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Austin.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, I don't know if you all know a building on the Northwest Point Road.
Mm-hmm.
Close to the Northwest Point, Dolphin Point in Northwest Point Road. It's a house that was starting to build. It looks like a 3-story building. And it's been there quite a while now, and it's unfinished. Do you know the building I'm talking about?
I have driven past and I've seen it. Yeah, it's quite long and narrow, but very tall. Is that?
Yes, it's a 3-story building, and it also has an elevator shaft.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I have seen that.
Yeah, it looks like someone started it. I don't know what happened, whether it's financial problems or they just died and left it. But if the government is able to find out about that building and purchase that building, I think that would be a perfect office for the Department of Environment as a headquarters, especially in the Northwest Point area. And it's also right off of the 12-mile bank. Because that building there, it seems as though no one wants to purchase it and to finish it. So if the government is able to do so at the right price, it would also make our island look a lot better than that building just staying there as long as it has been so far. And it also has a launching ramp there already. So you all are able to use your boats there also, and it can also be used as a classroom. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
It's an interesting point, and there's that other ramp up there, Mr. Martin. But what do you think, Tim? I mean, you guys are kind of running out of space already, right?
I'm going to say all these callers have been very considerate. That's a fantastic idea, but I think we'd have a long road to convince government that we could go and be on some prime real estate like that, looking down Northwest Point, looking down 7 Mile Beach. But I'd love to be there.
Caribbean Sea. Yeah, that would be a beautiful place, nicely elevated too, so you wouldn't get washed out by the hurricanes and things like that.
Yeah, I'm almost back home because, like I said, I grew up on Northwest Point.
Yeah. So Tim, I mean, people don't really like. I mean, it's always adding new laws. I wanted to get back to the lagoon snappers. I was recently in Cayman Brac too, and I'm used to driving down there and just seeing hermit crabs everywhere. I didn't see any. It was really odd. I don't know whether it was too hot for them on the road or whether they just weren't there last time. But growing up here, they were everywhere. They were all over Georgetown, the capital, the red shanks, the land crab. But I want to talk about those lagoon snappers. I know a lot of people look forward to them every year, kind of congregating, but if there's signs that the fish are getting smaller and breeding earlier, then it seems like maybe they're under pressure. Have you looked into this fishery at all? Is it something on the horizon?
So we have looked at it, interestingly enough, because it's been raised once the main stuff with Nassau Grouper had been dealt with. People said that the lagoon snapper was the next area that was really getting hammered hard and didn't seem to have any regulations, and people were taking more than was perhaps what was sustainable or justifiable. And so we started to address this, and we started by looking at trying to identify the aggregation sites, and we were tagging fish catching fish in the daytime and throughout the season within the areas of the North Sound, and then tracking their movements to see if we could identify if there were more than one site, because there are a couple of well-known sites, but it seemed like these fish were going to many different locations.
Well, that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. And we were able to identify sites on the north coast, which were traditional sites, and they were actually encapsulated into the marine park expansion. So when we moved the boundaries north, outside of the reef on the north coast of North Sound, one of the reasons for that was it hopefully would help to safeguard the lagoon snapper or aggregation sites. So they would, rather than being dedicated lagoon spawning site, it was now a marine reserve, so you couldn't fish there anyway, and it was protected all year round. But I believe there's some confusion about some of the kind of the way the law is written. So the law prevents fishing in water shallower than 150 feet, but some people have misinterpreted that to think it means you have to be more than 150 feet away from the reef, which is not actually correct. You need to be out in the water 100. And so the people that are fishing the snappers are actually, in
the park. So there's a bit of adjustment. I mean, it would seem like you can't. There are reports of people coming in, or maybe exaggerating, but like up to the gunnels almost. If there was some sort of like reasonable quantity as well, it would be better. But
that would be the next. So bag limits and seasons would be the next.
When I was away recently, and I'm fortunate to be away up in Maine, and they have like a minimum size and a maximum size, and it's amazing. You're catching stripers, like huge fish, and some of these are sustainable fisheries, like the lobster. Anyway, we've got another break, Tim. We'll come back in a bit. Please give us a call. The numbers are, I just called out the numbers. I'll give them to you when we come right back. But handing over to Susan.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Are you ready for a midsummer miracle? Get ready for the Christmas in July sale at Tortuga and discount retail stores. All July, Tortuga is bringing exclusive Red Dot deals in store. Discover incredible savings on selected items that will make your summer merrier. But hurry, the Red Dot deal is available while stock lasts during regular store trading hours. Don't miss the once in a summertime offer to save on your favorite beverages and more with Christmas in July. Visit a Tortuga and discount retail stores near you.
Your dream home starts with a vision, and often inspiration is at the heart of that vision. Brand Source Home Gallery's in-house designers are here to help bring your vision to life. Whether you're remodeling or building a new home, Brand Source Home Gallery is your one-stop solution. Explore their kitchen cabinets, sinks, faucets, bath fixtures, tubs, vanities, and more. Let Brand Source's designers help and inspire you with your next project. Call 623-5000 and schedule an appointment with a design expert at Brand Source Home Gallery, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, serving Cayman for 50 years.
No, man. I'm tired of seeing a new charge on my phone bill every month.
You are always complaining about that bill. I think it's time you make that switch to Digicel.
I've been with my network for more than a decade. I don't know if I want to move over now.
Well, better later than never. When you switch to Digicel, you get better speeds, more data, and simply more value. Best of all, no dishonest practices. What they say is what you get. Make that switch today and get 50% off your first 2 months.
50% off my first 2 months? Mary, you're convincing me now. Okay, I'll visit a Digicel store near me.
Experience the bigger, better network. Switch your postpaid number to Digicel for 50% off your first 2 months or get a free 30-day Prime bundle for prepaid customers. Make the switch today.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Welcome back to For the Record. I'm joined in the studio by Mr. Tim Austin from Department of Environment. So if you want to give us a call, you can reach us on 1-800-534-8255. It's compliments of flow. Or non-flow users can use 949-8037 or 949-6990 or WhatsApp us on 925-3261. And maybe I'll just quickly do the the birthday shout-outs earlier were sponsored by the Pizza Boat, which is now open in Queen's Court on West Bay Road. Hop on board the Pizza Boat Express. Pizza Boat makes pizza even more fun. Pick up or delivery 949-0000 or order online at www.pizzaboat.ky. So, Tim, just I don't think we quite finished up on what Mr. Elvis McKeever was discussing about sort of limiting the access to especially the shoreline for foreigners or permit holders fishing. You said there might be something in the works, or you're looking at it? Or?
Yeah, we've never given up looking at it. If I'm brutally honest, we've resisted the idea of licensing and went for a comprehensive marine protected area. Okay. So we feel with 50% of the shelf or the current levels of protection that we've got that, maybe everybody could fish. But it is definitely an issue that people want addressed locally. And you see other jurisdictions, you mentioned that, and so we are still looking at it. Our ministry has asked us to look at it. We're constantly looking at ways to address the issue. The potential of a national identity card was one avenue that maybe would have helped us a little bit, because as we were mentioning before, the enforcement of this, our enforcement officers currently now, a marine protected area, someone fishing from the shore, it's illegal, we can stop them no matter who they are. When it's license holding, we have to look at everybody that's fishing and go, are you allowed to here? Are you allowed not? So it's a nightmare to enforce.
In places like the States, if you can't fish unless you're holding a license with you or whatever.
But that would require Caymanians to have a license, and that is one of the approaches is that actually every Caymanian gets a license, and then.
Interesting. I think Susan mentioned that we might have another caller. We got two callers. Welcome to For the Record, caller.
Hello?
Yes, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
The first thing I'd like to talk about is this push and talk about coral diseases. There's some things that we control, and there's some things that we do not control. We do not control global warming. What we do control is the fact that it is well known, proven for nearly 30 years, that untreated, matter of fact, before that, because in the 1980s, 1982, which is when the Water Authority law was created and the standards for turbidity and biological oxygen demand was set, 30 parts per million, the world has moved on so far beyond that. And when the Water Authority was established, we were told that there would be a recycling of the wastewater. But that has not occurred, mainly because the money came from the EU. The EU required that we purchase a pipe from them. They sold us clay pipe that they knew leaked, and so 1/3 of the water the sewage treatment plant has been treating all these years is actually seawater that gets into the clay pipes. So they can't recycle it because of the high salinity in the water. That's one aspect of the nonsense that's going on here. The other one is that from in the 1980s now, it was shown that staghorn coral is deadly when human pathogens that is in all of our gut goes in there. So every tourist that comes, every new work permit, slave labor, wage that they employ, that they bring to the island is flushing the toilet. Every toilet flush kills more staghorn coral, primarily the producer and our supply for sand on the beaches. And it provides this coral that your pirate fish will chew up and grind up what the weather doesn't grind up. Now, the Water Authority, Department of Environment, the DEH, Environmental Health, are aware of these facts. In the Florida Keys, they finally were able to get to the point where Key West put in what is called advanced wastewater treatment, and the 70 islands of the Keys will no longer be allowed to have septic tanks. They've now started to pump septic tanks and take them out in the Florida Keys and doing advanced wastewater treatment. Simon, I think you were the one earlier mentioned about the nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, the fertilizers that are killing coral also.
Yeah.
Those are the things that we can do something about. But I hear damn all about, I hear little about that. And so we want to build more subsidized $25 million apartments for billionaires. We want to add all these various things, not collecting the fees for infrastructure. And then we take the infrastructure fund and unlawfully use it to make a green tapestry for the dark developments down there to look at rather than looking at the dump that it is. And, you know, it's so sickening. That's the only word I can describe our government and the sense of values and some of the nonsense that they chat and what they do. And they all know that we need to do advanced wastewater treatment in every flush of every toilet in our island.
Mr. Adams, can I, because we will have to go to a break in a minute, we do have another caller, and I'd like Tim to have an opportunity to respond before we go to the call. Thank you, though, very much. Wastewater pathogens going into the water column. He was mentioning 30 parts per million suspended, being too high. I mean, it's difficult to regulate fertilizers and things people want to.
It's a really, really complicated and difficult area but we are aware of the issues. I mean, there are things.
It costs millions as well, wouldn't it, to put in a sewage
I
plant?
don't know what Florida.
But probably we should need. I mean, at some point we're going to need to do it. Probably. I mean, it's almost inevitable.
So. I mean, yeah. This idea came in as a cast limestone rock. When you pour something on the ground, it gets into the sea.
Leaches out.
Yeah, it comes through the ground.
And our beautiful marine life is really what we're selling to the tourists.
That's right. And you'll remember when we were growing up here, as Mr. Billy was talking about the staghorn, the elkhorn coral. You couldn't move in the North Sound without running into that.
It's beautiful.
It all died in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. And the work that Mr. Adams was talking about with Florida Keys have identified the human gut pathogen Serratia as the agent that caused the disease that killed all of that coral. I mean, it was the most ubiquitous coral in the Caribbean.
So as he said, it's something that is potentially we can stop it.
Yeah.
But it would cost vast amounts.
Huge amounts of money. I don't know how much Florida spent on its tertiary treatment.
But doesn't mean we shouldn't be looking at it.
No, there's still things we can do. We can definitely improve the situation. We don't have to go to the full, just
can we treat it to stop that thing getting into the water before it leaves? No, not really.
Well, you could do so tertiary treatment, but that's largely what they're doing in the Keys. So we have primary, secondary. We came in as secondary, so and then we got the fact that only half of the island is on a septic tank. Half of the island's on septic tanks. The others on kind of packaged treatment plants and/or the water authority.
Septic tanks sometimes aren't even that effective.
No.
We do have another call. Let's try to get it in before the break, if possible. Susan, welcome to For the Record. You're on the air.
Good morning again, Simon and Tip.
Hey, morning.
Morning.
I just have a simple question.
Yes.
The word scuba, did that come from Cuba?
I wish. That's
self-contained underwater
breathing
apparatus.
Yeah, that was what Cousteau came up with.
Yeah, but obviously I think Cousteau. Or maybe the Navy, the French Navy or something. But I think Bob Soto, too, was quite an early pioneer converting fire extinguishers and stuff over... it must have been a crazy time, that first initial kind of exploration into the water. But the amount of people doing that is sort of lessened. I think scuba diving isn't quite as popular as it was now. But
I've stopped following the statistics, but at one point it was like really rapidly growing as a sport. But I think it's kind of leveled out. And I don't think there was, what would they call, Madigan Pratt report in Cayman many years ago. I think the Cayman Islands Tourism Association funded a investigation to see how many people were diving and where they were diving, and it was really valuable resource showing, we had like 400,000 or 500,000 dives a year taking place around the island, and well above some of the.
Were you looking at their impact on the corals?
Exactly that. We're looking at the because I think it was Bonaire were the first group to identify that scuba divers actually were impacting the reef, and they tried to do some work to determine a carrying capacity. And they set that at something really low, like 3,000 dives a year, to be on the safe side. And we were already had big tunnels taking 10,000 a year, so it was like, we got to think about this. But nothing really came of it. And I think you say the diving industry's kind of started to self-regulate by really educating divers about the impacts to coral, and the law that prevents gloves and things like that has all kind of gone some way to help a bit.
I still love it. I get out there and I do it still. My nephew's gotten into it too now, so I've got a buddy to go down with, and I love it. Well, we're going to head up to the news headline now at 9 o'clock, and then after that we look forward to hearing from you again. So give us a call. I'm joined here into the studio by Mr. Tim Austin, but we'll head to the news.
Follow Radio K-Man on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio K-Man.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio K-Man's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The headline news is brought to you by Health Services Authority and the Ministry of Tourism and Transport.
The Chamber of Commerce's Leadership K-Man class raises more than $100,000 at their Wheels for Meals fundraising event. 23 teams participated in back-to-back spin and Kids Zumba classes with funds raised, allowing the Meals on Wheels program to deliver more than 10,000 meals. And it also kick-started fundraising for Meals on Wheels' new premise in Industrial Park. The head of the Wagner mercenary group says it will continue its activities in Africa and Belarus, but that it is not currently recruiting new fighters. In an audio message published by a Wagner-linked Telegram account attributed to Yevgeny Proboshkin, the group is deciding on its next objectives. Wagner fighters have played a key role in Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In June, several thousand of them took part in a short-lived mutiny against Russia's military leadership. And Madonna has thanked her family and friends for their support after she was hospitalized with a serious bacterial infection last month. The singer shared an update on social media saying she was lucky to be alive after her time in intensive care. The 64-year-old had previously said she was, quote, on the road to recovery after spending several days in the ICU. She was due to begin a 7-month world tour in the coming weeks, but has had to postpone it by 3 months. Those are your headlines. I'm Kersley Fuller.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio K-Man's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The headline news is brought to you by Health Services Authority and the Ministry of Tourism and Transport.
The Health Services Authority has over 120 world-class physicians offering the most comprehensive range of specialist services on island. Our dedicated team of professionals provide the highest quality care in orthopedics, interventional radiology, women's health, geriatrics, and a host of other specialist areas. We are a JCI accredited organization with a proven record of excellence. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you. For more information, visit hsa.ky.
I am Heather Bodden, MP for Savannah and a lifelong advocate for the environment. Illegal dumping is a crime, so please take civic pride in our home and put litter where it belongs. If you see someone littering, report it to the Department of Environmental Health on 949-6696.
Be a part of the solution, not the pollution. Littering is a crime punishable by a $500 fine or 6 months in prison. Brought to you by the Beautification Task Force and Ministry of Tourism and Ports.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio K-Man.
All right, welcome back to For the Record. I think we'll get straight to a call if they're still on the line. The caller did not hold on. Tim, so we were talking earlier about some of the research projects. Mr. Timothy Austin, Deputy Director, Department of Environment. Are you seeing any more, one of the areas, turtles, any more turtle nests? I mean, how are we doing on that?
So our turtle program has gone from strength to strength. You mentioned at the start of the show, successes with management. This has got to be one of them. So in 1998, we got a small grant from the UK to look at turtle nesting because it had really plummeted, and we thought turtles were practically extinct as in terms of a nesting species. And we thought little caiman might actually be still some remnant nesting, so we focused there. But we quickly realized that there were still some nests occurring in Grand Cayman, and we had, I think, 30 nests in total for the whole of the Cayman Islands for that year. And we kept at it, and literally, 20, 25 years later, we're approaching 800 and something nests, and this year is set to
800.
be... This year is set to be a bumper year. So turtles, the management of turtles locally has really been a success story, and it's still a lot of work to do, but the turtle population... I can't say it's safe or recovered because it's still a mere fraction of what it used to be, but it's certainly is going the right direction. We're getting more and more net turtles recruiting to Cayman and more nesting success. So, yeah, very happy about that.
What are you seeing? Is it mainly loggerhead, or are you seeing green and hawksbill as well?
So it is mainly greens and loggerheads together, excuse me. And obviously the contribution of the turtle farm towards the greens has been instrumental. Some of the genetic work that we've been doing with international colleagues shows that, like 90% of the turtles that are in Cayman waters have some connection to turtles that are in the Cayman turtle farm.
Really?
So the release program has been great. But we've seen a similar recovery in the loggerheads, and there hasn't been the same effort of release programs for loggerheads, and that we can attribute to a 2007 management change where we were able to shift the season. Turtle fishing was illegal but was permitted for like 12 to 15 long-time fishermen, but unfortunately the season for the turtle was not correct, so they were fishing at the peak of the breeding season and basically removing the breeding turtles, which was having a big impact on the recovery. So we shifted that season, shifted some of the areas you could fish, and shifted the license period. And there's still a couple of people with licensing, but the fishing pressure dropped off significantly, and the turtle population has recovered dramatically. So we're very, very encouraged about that, and hopefully it'll keep going that way.
I want to. We do have a caller on the line, so we're going to go to that. But I do want to, when we come back, we protected the Nassau Grouper spawning ground. I want to find out whether you're seeing any positive signs there. But let's go to a caller now. Welcome to For the Record. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Moderator.
Good morning, Dr. McPhail.
Good morning to your guest, Steve McPhail here.
Good morning, Mr. Steve.
I recognize that voice.
Yeah, I want to support the caller before the last caller. I think it was Mr. Adams. I recognize his voice, Billy. And I just wonder, why is it that we keep talking around the subjects? We're using these very serious environmental subjects as just a talking matter. We just relate them as a talking piece, and yet we don't get the people on the radio who's responsible for the nation building, responsible for all of these, the preservation of all of these things that we say we are losing. It's always the people on the periphery that we have on the radio, but we don't have the people who are responsible for the solutions. We only talk about the symptoms. The gentleman was saying that I can't remember what he says now, but he was saying something about they prefer to limit the places where you could fish instead of a license to fish. I lived in Canada for over a decade and a half, and I was married into a banker family. My father-in-law and all my brother-in-laws are Royal Bank managers, and my father-in-law used to go fishing every summer and go hunting and so. In Canada, if you want to fish in the salmon season, everybody has to have a fishing license. You're allowed to take 4 salmon for each person in the boat. And then when you come in, you go to a fishing station that's set up by the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife, so they can inspect your boat to see how many fish you actually took. The same thing, hunting. You have to get a deer license or a moose license if you want to go hunting for deers and moose, and you're allowed to take 1 moose or 1 deer. Which one? And there are places where you can take it. They cut it up for you and they package it, and then you can bring it home and put it into your freezer. my father-in-law used to take the salmons, and he had a place where they would can it for him, and in the basement they had moose meat and salmon meat and stuff. That's a huge country with the salmons that were they thought in those days were could not be finished, and they had to have license, and that was how long ago that has been, over 50 years ago. And here we are, this little small island, where we are expanding at 27%. The population is growing by 27%, and we have all kinds of people. And I see them on an iron shore digging off the stuff from the iron shore and taking the fries and the sprats and everything. Why is it that we are reluctant to put the laws in place to protect our own interests? We just say, okay, and the gentleman was saying something about, well, the cost of this is going to be very high and stuff. Is the cost trumps a health of life? It's the same thing. As a commissioner of the Boundary Commission, when we went around the island, getting the people's feedback from before we wrote our report to the governor and to the parliament about the review of the boundaries because of the large population growth since the first report about the one man, one vote, single member constituency. We heard the same thing when we recommend and say to solve the huge problem of population growth that is moving east. We would have to recommend that Bordentown have a new seat, an extra seat. And everybody was up in their arms about, oh, look how much it's going to cost for a new member of parliament and so forth. And I kept saying to them, you don't measure democracy by the size of your purse. I mean, why is it that it's always about money and not about sustenance of the environment and health? Why is it it's always come down to the measurement of money, 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 money? You know, I work, but I don't. I would not sacrifice my health to have money in the bank, to say, oh, I have this amount of money in the bank. It is so acronine and it's so outlandish that, you know, it's almost foolish now. We always look like a foolish country. We allow so many people to come, and everybody can do what they want to do. They can take as much fish as they want. They can do everything they want to do. And we just sit back and say, oh, well, that's the price of growth. That's not the price of growth. You have to conserve your environment. It's the same thing with the heat now. They would not listen to people who were saying, oh, you know, there's going to be climate change. Al Gore was the first one that came out publicly and said all that. And now they can't stop it. You know, and instead of sitting down and saying, how can we solve this problem? They all saying, oh, I think it was President Biden said, we're gonna give you more water to drink. It's so asinine now to be a human being in this era in which we're living. You know, and Cayman is no different from the rest of them. It all comes down to money. Oh, the cost is too much to do this. The cost is too much to do this. You know, if I was in the government, I probably would last 6 months because it was the oligarchies and the people who actually run the country, like Billy said, would not allow me to stay in power. But I would solve some problems. I can tell you that. Thank you.
I thank you very much for the call. I hope I can. Just at the heart of the mash, the fishing license issue is definitely simmering and keeping going, and I think it's inevitable that we will move in that direction, and we're certainly working towards it. I agree with everything that you've said. I wish I had an answer for it. It does come down for money. We have to compete every year with all the other priorities that require financial input. So it's just about establishing what those priorities are likely to be.
And yeah, thanks, Dr. McPhail. I mean, I think people do struggle with change a little bit, but obviously Dr. McPhail feels like people would adapt, as they did in Canada. But I know in the past when they tried to do the boat licenses, that didn't go so well either, did you? I mean, I don't know why, because I don't know the background to it, and maybe that wasn't your remit. That was probably the port.
Yeah, I think it was the Port Authority, but I do think there's a requirement to register your vessel. Yeah, it doesn't really happen.
Yeah, I guess when the marine parks first came into effect, there was lots of challenges. People didn't appreciate it, but then now we have beautiful fish still in our shallow water, and people can come off the cruise ship and they see fish right in the very harbor, and big tarpon swimming and stuff just right off the shore. So we've got a lot to be grateful for the fact that the people had the foresight to put those things in then, even though at the time they weren't popular.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues, I mean, Dr. Steve raised it, is the rate of change. I mean, things, literally, the population is growing so fast that, you're addressing one issue, and by the time you've dealt with that, you're facing another issue because the whole background or situation has changed, and humans are usually the drivers.
We do have a caller on the line. We've got a break coming up, and I'm not forgetting what you said, too, about, the issues of, the things like the sewerage issue, the wastewater, the difficulties of actually change happening when maybe there's large financial implications, it crosses multiple departments and agencies. How do we achieve these very difficult things and get them done? Who needs to be brought to the table, and how do we make it happen? But let's take the break quickly, and please call us down the line. We'll be right back.
Are you ready for a midsummer miracle? Get ready for the Christmas in July sale at Tortuga and discount retail stores. All July, Tortuga is bringing exclusive Red Dot deals in store. Discover incredible savings on selected items that will make your summer merrier. But hurry, the Red Dot deal is available while stock lasts during regular store trading hours. Don't miss the once in a summertime offer to save on your favorite beverages and more with Christmas in July. Visit a Tortuga and discount retail stores near you.
Hello, Cayman. If you have been chosen for the STEPS National Health Survey, thank you so much. But we still need your help. 1,000 more people need to participate in Step 3, the final step of the survey, to ensure that our data reflects the whole population of Cayman. We cannot do this without you. Help us shape Cayman's healthcare services. Say yes to Step 3. For more information, contact the STEPS team on 936-4969 or email mhwsteps@gov.ky.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Simon Boxall, standing in for Ort Connor, and I'm joined by Mr. Tim Austin, Department of Environment. We do have a caller on the line. Just quickly, though, I noticed received a message about some breaking news. There was a fire at the Northside Police Station, and unfortunately, I think some of, at least the roof at the on the report I received, had been damaged. Sorry to hear that. Caller, anyway, welcome to For the Record. You're on the air.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Morning.
It's a very interesting discussion this morning, and I think also a very important one. And just building on what you were saying earlier, Mr. Austin, about issue with fish, particularly reef fish, and finding ways to preserve them. And borrowing a bit from what Dr. McField just said about, if you like, the money or the commercial piece of it. I'm wondering, do you have any data on how many or how much of the fish that is caught in local waters that are reef fish, not the pelagic ones so much, but the reef fish, end up in restaurants and served in restaurants?
I jump straight in there. To be honest, at hand, no, I don't. But we have in the past done a number of household surveys. We've done a number of kind of recreational surveys looking at what people are using the marine environment for, and primarily most people that went fishing were catching the fish for local consumption, their own consumption in their households, supplementing what they had. But I do know, just through the activities of the department, that many of the very small local restaurants are provisioned through fish that are caught locally. But statistics on that we haven't collected. A couple of enforcement incidents or issues like that may help to kind of make us some educated guesses. But I would imagine that quite a few of the local catch of species do end up there locally. But I must admit I don't have hard data, and we haven't looked at that as a kind of like a main avenue that the fish are, or the resources from the reefs are going. But I'm pretty certain that some do, if not a fairly sizable contribution.
Yes, I mean, go to a restaurant and you see snapper as a catch of the day or grouper, and it's concerning because one has to wonder, is that snapper or grouper really a sustainable catch? And it's bad enough for it to be taken out of the ecosystem anywhere, but even worse if it's happening here, and this is going on in restaurants. I'm wondering if a place to start might be a program that, if you like, is an incentive for restaurants not to serve the reef fish species. In other words, give them a DOE seal of approval or something like that. I think you had a program, Reef Smart or Fish Smart, some while ago, that was a pretty good little leaflet explaining which fish were sustainable and which ones weren't, and perhaps some logo, something that the restaurants would benefit from having in terms of their corporate responsibility and their image, if you like, to their customers, that they are caring about the environment and doing their part.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was it Cayman Sea Sense, I think it was called. We worked with National Trust to produce a little fish card, and I think that's still in operation. I must admit, so whenever I see local fish or local this or local grouper on the menu, I'm always intrigued to ask where it comes from. And without calling out names, a lot of restaurants are fairly generous with that term, locally caught. And then you say, well, actually, it's not. It's something we've shipped in. And I mean, there is a lot of fish that's being imported. I don't know how the statistics on that, but the restaurant, says local group, and then you ask them, well, actually, I think what did someone say? This is swahi, which is like some freshwater fish, and you're like really? But they marketed it as grouper, which I'm sure is probably illegal as well. But we do
that is a good idea. So you say there's something in place that's
yeah,
responsible restaurants and things like that can say, hey, we're not harvesting the local reef fish so much. We'd try to focus on more sustainable fishery, possibly the pelagics.
Yeah, I mean, and the education part of it's critical. I think. Yeah, I mean, there is a program in place, but I'm happy to go back and see where that lies.
Okay, we'll just quickly go back to the caller. Sorry, any more further comment?
Yes. So what I just want to say real quick, and then I'll let you all go. But what I'm thinking is, it's two-pronged. One is education. Both of the, fishermen, individuals, those of us who might go and enjoy it as a hobby, but can know better what to do, to know when it should be catch and release and when you can catch it. For example, I think in Sea Sense it talked about mahi as being quite a sustainable fish comparatively speaking to the other ones. But the other piece of it, as I'm saying, is something that would be, if you like, an official seal, an official endorsement that restaurants could display. Not just say, look, we're not taking any fish out of local reefs, but actually something that the DOE could go in and certify. I just think something to think about. I think if it could be done well, it could be very effective because, let's face it, the only long-term sustainable way to change human behavior is positive reinforcement.
Absolutely.
So I'll leave you that thought. Thank you, gentlemen.
No, that's great. Thank you.
That's a good point. Thank you very much, caller. I think we've still got another. I mean, I do want to ask quickly, Tim, when you bring up a fish which bladder is inflated, sometimes you want to let them go because it might be small. But then when you do, you see them floating on the surface and then they either get hit by a barracuda or a bird comes and grabs it. Is it possible to figure out a way to let them get that bladder to empty out? Or?
So when we tag group of fishermen, we pull them up from like 100, 150 feet of water. Yes, they embolize and their swim bladder expands and pushes their stomach out their mouth. But they're resilient fish. So we've come up with a mechanism where we put a barbless hook in them and a weight on them. We push the sounds rather gross. Push all the stuff back inside the mouth, and we sink them back down, and the bladder recompresses. And when they hit the bottom, we pull the jig and we release them, and they're just fine. Okay. So you can recompress a fish.
Sounds like a difficult thing to do for a recreational fisherman. We've got another caller on the line. Also, I want to talk about the hook and when they swallow the hook later on. But let's go to the caller.
Good morning, Simon.
Good morning. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to your panel. The gentleman there. I just want to comment on what Dr. Steve was saying, and I endorse every word that he said. And here in the Brock, we see a lot of problems. And one thing I am so against here in the Brock, that I have to raise my children to use the ocean, and today they hardly anything on the ocean not to be to raise my children on. I took them some weeks ago to some very local spots that I was raised on, and there's no fish. Absolutely no fish. We caught nothing. Absolutely nothing. I've been on both the shows, OC and Dwayne Sterling show, more than time can tell regarding this issue with people fishing our waters without license. I am 100% against that. That there should be laws regulated for these kind of situations of people fishing in our shores and have no license. They have no proof of anything. Their marine, first of all, the sector doesn't check them for the size fish that they're taking from our waters, because they do not like the large fish. They prefer the little 4-inch fish. Nothing bigger than 6 inches they prefer. It has become a problem here on this island, and I know it was a problem over in Little Cayman, and I know from down in the 80s when I used to work in Grand Cayman, it became a problem there on the waterfront as well. And I don't know how down there is now, but I know the fish was depleted from there rapidly in the 80s. Like I said, I don't know how it is now, but here is becoming a bad and a serious problem when it comes to the marine life. And it doesn't seem like we have the enforcement, I should say, of law, because when they see a local fishing on the shore, the marine officers will stop and check the local. Now, if a foreigner is on the bay and we see it over and often, Friday to Friday, or Monday to Monday, whichever day you want to put it, they fish every day on the side of the beach, doesn't matter whether it's sand or rock, and they collect from the smallest fish that they can catch, and they don't be checked for absolutely nothing that they have in their possession. The depletion of our waters are falling fast, and it's not falling from the locals. We as locals don't fish the iron shores anymore. We go in the boat. We can't catch what's in the ocean anymore because more or less the majority of the time of the ocean is God's doing. It's rough. And the fishermen eat out there as usual, like how they used to in the moor. So at the days that they can't go to their fish areas to fish and take what they need to take to bring home to feed their families, they don't go. But to see that these other ones can come here, and it doesn't matter whether it's rough or calm, they fish on the shore. If seas tear them down, they still stand there and fish. They have no right to be fishing on the shores without a proof that they have license, that they're fishing in our waters. They call it international waters. I don't think it in international waters here because I don't see no laws being enforced. Gentlemen, I think that something needs to be done regarding that. And I want to make one more suggestion, Mr. Boxall, before I go, if it's okay with you. Hello?
Yes, sir. You go right ahead. I'm listening.
Okay.
And
the next thing I want to mention is the clearing of properties here on our island. I have an older daughter. I have 2 daughters, 2 sons. But my oldest one is against the clearing of properties here on the island. And I've been going to areas that have been cleared, and the number of ironwood trees that are torn down, burnt, and the amount of cedar trees that have been pushed down to make these roads to go to these properties. And there are numerous hundreds and hundreds of orchids that have been destroyed and burnt to where they're clearing the road to get to these properties. I don't know what needs to be put in place, but I hope someone is listening, that something can be done about the people that are coming here clearing properties to make these subdivisions, to make sure that that is stopped and is stopped immediately. We cannot allow our natural heritage to just go down the hole by people don't care about our fish, our land, and just leave us with absolutely nothing to look back on for our children, to teach our children about. Gentlemen, I will listen. If you all want to comment on, make me stay online and comment, that's up to you. Go ahead.
Caller, thanks very much for your contribution. And I think as the pace of development, we've seen it going. I mean, we grew up fishing on the iron shore, catching fish. You just don't catch them like you used to. Obviously, things need to adapt and change. And it sounds like, I'm hearing even on the show on Friday, people, they love the old architecture. They don't want to see every old Cayman house get licked down. They don't want to see their local trees. And they want to be able to keep a marine environment that they're proud of and they love. And it's so much part of the character and the culture that it sounds like maybe people are more open to the idea of the fishing licenses, and I don't think we do have to go to break. We do have another caller, Susan. I thank you for reminding me, keeping me on my toes. So let's get to the break right now. We'll come right back.
West Bay Pharmacy. Personalized medicine, customized care to meet your specific needs. Your body is unique to you. Your medicine should be too. Whether you're seeking individual specific medication, correct size dosages, or simply better tasting medicine, ask your pharmacist or healthcare provider about how compounding at West Bay Pharmacy can increase your treatment options, not only for your family, but for your pets too. West Bay Pharmacy, open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sundays and most holidays from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m.
She hear clunk and her car stop. I was just about to send her some money, so I send it straight to her JN Money Transfer card. It cost me less, and perhaps she use the card, pay the garage right away. She'll get discount through the JN Rewards program in Jamaica. This card make things easy. You can even get funds at any multi-link ATM.
JN Money Transfer Card. Fast, affordable, convenient. Tell your loved ones in Jamaica about it. Sign up is free.
Can you imagine your home completely organized? At Brand Source Custom Closets, we can. We specialize in designing and building custom closets and storage units for any room in your home, including the garage. With tailored designs and custom LED lighting solutions to fit your lifestyle and budget. Our custom closets expert is committed to enhancing the value of your home with a solution that is uniquely yours. Visit our showroom or call 623-6774 to schedule a no-obligation appointment with our design expert. Brand Source Custom Closets, 209 Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park.
You know, as a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I'm going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old gal this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Welcome back to For the Record. Let's go straight to a caller. We got a caller online. Caller, welcome. You're on the air.
Morning.
Morning.
About a year ago, I went on the old Prospect Road to the church office, United Church office down there. I think it's a little bit below where your father used to live.
Yes, sir.
And I hadn't been to the beach for a long time there, so I just took a little walk down to the beach. This property is owned by United Church. And there was about 3 or 4 Filipinos fishing there. And the fish, like the other guy just said, was about 3 to 4 inches. And I said, "Did you get permission to come fish here?" He said, "No." I said, "Well, you need to get off this property. This is private property. And you shouldn't be catching such small fish." And then about 6 months later, I went up to Butterwood Quarry. I had to see someone there. That's in Borden Town, in Pease Bay. Now, before you get to his quarry, there's a pond there. And they were fishing in this little pond. So I stopped and went to them and asked them who they were, and they told me, Filipinos again. So he was an electrician. And the little fish they were catching in this pond, I don't think was longer than 3 inches. I said, "What are you doing with such small fish?" And he said that they're using that to season up the food when they cook it, that they boil it down with. Well, that was not any property that I was connected with, so I could not tell them to remove themselves. But when I saw one of the owners of the quarry, I told them about it. I don't know if he did anything. And this was just a little pond going to the quarry. And they were catching these little small fish about 3 inches. So something needs to be done about it. You need to have a fishing license.
I mean, it's an offense. Sorry to jump in. Stay on the line, caller. It's an offense, I think, to catch a fish under a certain size. What happens if a work permit then ends up before the court? Do they lose their work permit and do they have to go back home?
Yeah, unfortunately, under the National Conservation Act, offences are criminal offences. So, but typically, we don't make the decision on who gets prosecuted. So we send these cases to the Office of the Department of Public prosecutions, and they make the call on whether this is in the interest of Cayman or interest of whatever the interest tests that they use. But yeah, it's a criminal offence. I don't know what happens.
So what is the size limit again, Tim?
So this is an interesting debate and something I haven't actually got my head around now. So obviously in the sea, you're not allowed to take most fish under the size of 8 inches.
Okay.
So, but there are a couple of exceptions to that, like the sprat and fry that you are allowed to take, because they naturally don't go bigger than 8 inches. But the general cutoff is 8 inches. And this caller, and your previous caller from the BRAC, raised a very interesting topic, which is the shift in cultural fishing practices. This idea that small fish are actually useful, which also came from other areas of the Caribbean, where the idea of just you caught small fish, so you made a dish that worked with that, like fish tea or something. I don't know, not very good at cooking, but so that's an interest. But the issue with the quarry pit is also quite interesting, because most of the Marine Conservation or the National Conservation Act is looking at reef or kind of saltwater fish. The fish that people are catching in the quarry are actually tilapia, which is an introduced fish that was brought in for fish farming and to be farmed in managed environments. But they've subsequently got into the water around Cayman.
They washed out in hurricanes.
I don't know how they got there, or people put them in or tried to seed various ponds. But they're a very adaptive fish, and they're now living in the water, so they're catching those. So I need to go away and educate myself to see whether the National Conservation Act, because it does include all fish, which probably...
Let's go back to that caller quickly, because I want to give him another chance. We've also got 2 more callers on the line.
So I want to know what the Department of Environment is doing about this, and don't you think it would be a good thing to put something in the papers that prohibits a statement prohibiting these people from taking such juvenile fish?
So your point about education is absolutely critical. We are trying all the time. This is a growing problem. I don't want to keep blaming or passing the blame, but we have limited resources. We have 9 enforcement officers that are patrol the entire island. They are out there doing this. You don't see a lot of it. You see the people that you think probably didn't catch, but if you could see the statistics of how many people we do intervene, I think you'd be reassured. But there are still plenty that we miss, or that avoid detection. But we are working really hard. We have an app, a smartphone app that we try to promote so people know what the rules are, they know where they are and what they can do in that particular area, because the phone GPS tells you with the map that you can catch this and catch that. But there are people out there that just don't know about it, and so education is absolutely critical. The transition to the new marine protected areas has been, it's been in place now for about 2 years, and we're still going on that idea of educating people. But I truly take your point. I recognise
this. I think it's time to start prosecuting, I think, as well. Yeah. But maybe also...
But we do prosecute. So but they tend to be the big offences, 150 conch, 200 pounds of fish from a marine protected area.
Maybe also if it was when they applied it in their work permit, it was clear that, some of these laws that are continually being kind of broken.
Yeah.
But we do have a break coming up, and we've also got 2 more callers on the line, so I think just it'd be great to get a couple more in. I think it's a great point, a very important point.
It's a good point. The complacency amongst the people that are actually breaking the law, that needs to be addressed.
Okay. Sorry, Miss Susan, sorry. Do we have thank you very much, caller. We're going to go to our next caller online. I think it was a great point, though. Caller, you're on Talk Today. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning,
for the record.
Simon. Hope you're well.
I'm doing well, thank you.
And to your guest.
Good morning.
This is Carrie Tibbetts from the BRAC.
Hey.
I just want to say that up here we need some sort of daily patrolling. People are out in their boats. Not everyone. I'm not blaming everyone for doing this, but some are. And they're fishing in marine parks, and they're taking conch and lobster, the usual. And there's no one inspecting their boats when they get to, the wharf or get back to the docking area. We don't have that up here. That needs to be implemented. And it's not only expats that are fishing, doing the illegal fishing for the size-wise. It's our own people as well as doing it. So we can't just throw that blame on them alone. I've seen it up here. I'm a big spy up here in the BRAC, and it's so much that's not being done and so much that's not being implemented to keep an eye on things up here. And that's the saddest part of it all. But quickly, I wanted to say to the gentleman that's from the DOE, we need to get the government. The government has a lot of land up here, if they haven't sold it off to Uncle Diaz yet, crown land, that should be set aside for a sanctuary for the rock iguanas. If they're a protected species in our environment and unique to our environment, why are they not in a safer environment up here in the Brack, especially on the bluff? You can't tell people that, try to avoid them. Put them in an environment where they will be avoided from vehicles hitting them. Sometimes it's hard to see them on the road because of the shadings on the sides of the roads and rocks along the sides of the roads, especially on the bluff. And, you end up killing one or two or whatever. Now, some people are deliberate with the killing of them. We have some construction workers up here who has absolutely nothing humane about them when it comes to the animals of our environment. They don't care. I have videos of them swerving to kill iguanas, cats, you name it, dogs, whatever. Not many dogs up here anyway. But if we're going to protect something, we need to enforce that protection and put those enforcements in place. And let's start taking cars away from people who litter and all the other stuff. When we put a hard-pressed rule in place, the first one that is affected by it, the rest will think twice about tossing garbage out their car or, doing illegal stuff in the environment, like taking fish that's not the right size or going in and taking the boats away as well, pounding them that go into the marine parks. We have to be more vigilant as a country when it comes to that kind of situation. If we're going to put laws in place with no enforcement, proper enforcement of it, then what are we saying about ourselves? I throw the law out there and nobody goes and deal with it. Nobody is enforcing it. Nothing. So it's no sense, absolutely no sense. It's just going to continue, and the natural flora and fauna here at the bluff, especially, that one of your callers raised that is absolutely atrocious. Especially the maypoles, my goodness, they just remove them, trash them, dig them up, and I see it and it's sad. And we should have laws in place like they do in Hawaii. A third of the property you're clearing to build on none of the natural flora and fauna can be removed. We have to put these environments in place.
Tim.
Anyway, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Ms. Tibbetts. Before you respond, Tim, we're going to go directly to a break, and then we're going to discuss what Ms. Carrie Tibbetts just raised.
Yeah, some excellent points, yeah.
We'll be right back.
There you go, sir. Thanks for choosing JN Money Transfer.
Boy, thanks to JN Money Transfer, I can stay right here in Cayman and pay Mama bills back home in Jamaica. Her water, light, phone, and other bills never late. Every month I pay everything in one place.
Make payments to over 30 companies in Jamaica through JN Money Transfer. Fast, affordable, convenient. Call 1-800-744-1163 for details.
So much happening so fast, too much. It is hard for me to follow my health care instructions. The private counseling with West Bay Pharmacy literally saved my life.
At West Bay Pharmacy, we know how complex medications can be. Our pharmacists are delighted to offer you personalized one-on-one healthcare counseling, free medication review, therapeutic callbacks, and we will liaise with your physician to ensure you receive the best in quality medical care.
Quality of life has a whole new meaning with the right pharmacy to support you. Thank you, West Bay Pharmacy.
West Bay Pharmacy in Centennial Towers. Convenient quality care is just around the corner. Now you can WhatsApp your West Bay Pharmacy prescriptions to 516-0777.
As a little girl, I dreamt of traveling to faraway places and foreign lands. I tell you what though, no more dreaming. This summer, I going flying with Cayman Airways. How blessed are we in the Cayman Islands to have a very own national airline? Girl, you can fly to so many international destinations without the hassle of connecting flights. On top of Jamaica, Cuba, and Honduras, you got non-stop flights from Cayman to New York, Miami, Tampa, and even Denver, Los Angeles, and now Panama. Going to be a little cafe traffic con leche and Hollywood Squares for this old girl this summer.
Make your travel dreams come true with Cayman Airways, offering non-stop flights for non-stop adventures in Panama, LA, and many more places in between. For details and to book, call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
For the record, with Ort Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Ort Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Simon Boxall, sitting in for Mr. Ort Connor, and I'm joined in the studio by Mr. Timothy Austin from the Department of Environment. We've actually got two callers on the line. I also want to give Tim an opportunity to respond to Mrs. Tibbetts' comment about people just kind of leveling every tree on the property, the lack of enforcement possibly in the BRAC, or maybe the need for more enforcement. But let's go to the callers, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to kind of wrap up. Can you ask just going to ask the callers to be fairly brief because we've only got 10 minutes left. So, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. How are you all doing today?
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Good to hear you.
Yes, sir. About the fishing around the Cayman Island. I'm an old Caymanian, born, raised in Georgetown. And in my time when we grew up, we would go as Caymanians. We would go to catch fish for our family. When we went, we would get our soldiers, and we would go fishing in the morning, most of us, in small boats. I'm talking about now 1-man or 2-man boat. And we would go mostly up around South Sound or up around South Church Street, right off the tanks there that are so in Texaco tanks. We would get squabs, gillimbos, old white, all of them ain't around anymore. They were good fish for the locals, for us, to feed our families. And if we caught anything less than 8 inches, we let it go. Regardless of, we could have been out there all day and didn't have a catch to take home. If we caught anything less than 8 inches, we let it go. And I see people right up in the North Sound, where I spent most of my young years up there fishing, and they getting fish almost like sprats. And someone said a while ago they use that for seasoning in their food. I think as a Caymanian that is interested in my island, that the government, and I'm not blaming one government with an apostrophe S, should put in place the law that Caymanians can fish in and nobody else can fish in around the island, get license, because the people that is fishing in, they don't have no idea of conservation. They don't have no idea at all. I know I would deal with lobsters all of my life. I dealt with conchs all of my life. And I know the size, I know when and how. And I see people doing the same thing with the conchs, doing the same thing with the lobsters. The only thing that I do not agree with the law that they have here. If a family is saying they're going to catch some conchs for a meal, 5 conchs is nothing. That can't feed one person, because I don't know if the people understand when you have a conch and you cook a conch, the first thing you got to do is boil that conch, and the conch shrinks up. So for a family to have a decent meal of conchs, they need about 10 or 12. And I'm telling you that because the conchs shrink up, and by the time you cook them, they go into nothing. My mother, if it was 4 of us, she would cook about 10 conchs, plus she would have to make a flour pie along with it to go into it. And those days, they were big conchs, what we call broadleaf conchs. You can't get them now anymore because the people that is going in, and the government has no law for no one. So I don't know why the government do not put in place license for people to fish in. They have to have special license and who to fish in and where to fish in. Because people goes up there in the North Sound in the night and they catching little sprats. They're catching little sprats. I see them catching gillum, butterfish, what they call hine. The local people call them hine. The little butterfish. 5 inches. That's a sin. 5 inches long. So, I don't know, sir, if you can speak to the government to do something, but they need to put a law that any airborne can come and fishing on the island. And the locals can go fishing in certain places where we used to go before. Have a blessed day. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your call. And it does sound there's, at least from the callers we're getting, there seems to be a lot of support for
licensing, definitely
licensing
approach.
And restricting, maybe because Caymanians, they want to be able to get a little bit of fish for dinner and things like that. Let's go straight to the other caller. Thank you for your input, caller. Go ahead. You're on for the record.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm a older Caymanian myself. I used to fish the beach all the time, and I'm a fisherman still. I still go out fishing, but I go out in deep water now to try to catch some deep water fish because it ain't nothing along the reefs and in the North Sound no more to catch. Very, very, very little to catch left. But I agree with all these people that are saying this and saying that. Only thing I would say is it should be only the Caymanians have a license to do this fishing. Because, okay, let me jump to this. The minnows, you know what's a minnow? What we call them fries?
Yeah.
Okay. They used to be around this island by the millions, billions. Now you can't find one. You know why you can't find it? Because the Filipinos, they always go with a big old piece of screen, sweep all of them up, throw them up on the beach, throw sand on them, and rub them up, get the scales off them, they put them in their rice. Now we need no jacks left because Jack's main food is fries, minnows. There's very, very little Jacks around the place anymore. Sea sucks, like Mr. Steve Macfield was talking about. I think we call it sea suck. They'll stick onto the rocks. You go down there now and you can't see one. They go there and they dig them off. They had a thing called a periwinkle. Look like a snail.
Yeah.
None of them, everything is gone. I don't talk about the wilts. Everything is gone, gone, gone. The government got to do better than what they're doing with these laws. Another thing, the environmental people, the people in that supposed to go out and check the people for punks and lobsters and things like that. I'd be going out fishing in the morning, 6 o'clock. I thought it's 6 o'clock. And when I go out fishing 6 o'clock, the guys is coming in with their conchs and stuff out of the marine park. The environmental people, they comes out 10, 11 o'clock in the day. Who they going to catch? That's happened more all the time I see it happen.
Thank you very much, caller, for your input. Maybe time for a night shift for your enforcement team, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a whole bunch of stuff that we can
get
you
got a lot.
Through.
We are actually winding up here now.
I've been trying to wipe some notes, but on that issue, I agree. Enforcement is really critical that we do this. Education is a big point. We do night shifts occasionally. We do work on intelligence. But I would encourage, and what seems to be a common theme here, is a lot of people are seeing this activity happening. And I know you may have your reservations about it, but please reach out to the Department of Environment Enforcement Conservation Team. We do try to respond. We also, if you feel safe about doing it, educate the people that you're seeing. Sometimes people make honest mistakes, tell them, hey, this is not a marine park, you're not allowed to take fish. Do that with respect and don't endanger yourself in that process, but educating people, just letting them know that there are rules about this. I agree with that. Coming back to Miss Carey's points, there is a process through the National Conservation Act to recommend areas that people feel are key for protection. So for those iguanas or information, get a group together, make a proposal to National Conservation Council when the next round of protected area nominations come out. I would say that there are already a number for the BRAC, so hopefully those will come to fruition, and they do include areas for the Sister Island rock iguana. We've got a study coming up too, looking at tracking the movements of Siri to try to of the Sister Islands rock iguana to try to figure out where they are, make sure we're maximising the management of that. the previous caller about the conchs for his family. If he's in a boat and there's more than 2 of them, he can get 10. So take his grandkids with him to get them. But make sure the 2 of you get in, because it's actually not right for one person to get 10 conchs, even though there's 2 in the boat. So you both have to participate. What else did we write? Whatever we missed. Maybe you could remind me, Simon, if there's someone's point.
I think, well, maybe I don't hear of many people getting prosecuted for catching undersized fish. Maybe you need to make an example of a couple of people here, Tim. It sounds like...
I hear you. So I was mentioning that we don't make the final call on who gets to go to court. And then just to reiterate, this fishing license theme has dominated the calls today, and we completely agree. There is a proposal for review.
Well, the caller actually made a comment, sorry, Tim, to interrupt, offline, saying that maybe there needs to be more public service announcements about sort of even the undersized fish. Just hammer it home. Let people
excellent,
know.
Excellent. Yes, so we have new to the department. I keep saying this, but time moves so quick. We have a public education outreach officer. We're making real headroads into trying to become more active. Unfortunately, we use social media, Facebook and stuff like that, but we can definitely change the theme to the newspapers and more local outreach places. There has been some enforcement changes in Cayman Brac, so we have a new officer hopefully positioned over there now, so for Miss Kerry's point. And I believe there was a second post being considered for 2024, 2025. I'm not sure the status of that, but we're definitely looking to ramp up the enforcement.
I know for some of my communications in hazards, I'm off today. I'm on vacation still, but sometimes I have to go through the consular representative as well to get the information, because some people are assuming information differently. So I go to the acting sort of honorary consul for the Philippines or Canada or whatever, and just to get information out there sometimes as well.
That's a great idea.
We've got a lot. We had a lot to cover. I really appreciate the time, Tim. I feel like we could have talked. I wanted to get into sand issues. I wanted to get into
the beach.
The Nassau group. The Nassau group is making a little comeback, is it?
They're making a very strong recovery. It's been a real success story.
Protecting those spawning grounds.
It works.
It works, because I was in Little Cayman. I couldn't believe how many I saw that when I went. I just want to thank all our people that called in, the listeners, the opportunity. I feel honored to be sitting here in Mr. O.C. Connor's chair today, and I want to thank Susan too for her hard work in the behind the scenes. But just wishing everybody a good day, a good week. I'm going to be back, I think, on Wednesday. But I just wish everybody a happy and productive day, and thank you, Tim, as well.
Thank you, Simon. That was really, really cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.
For the Record, proudly brought to you by
Coca-Cola. Available across the Cayman Islands from Tortuga Distributors. Accept no substitutes. Taste the feeling with Coca-Cola. Brand Source Home Gallery. Inspiring luxury. And JN Money.
From abroad to yard.
Fast, affordable, convenient. Doctor's Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctor's Hospital. Always there for you. Call 949-6066. And by the STEPS 2023 National Health Survey. Visit gov.ky/steps to learn more. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.